the Bihar government gave out the data for its caste census. And the devil lies in the detail, which could very well go ahead and give a full fillip where it comes down to the India campaign, at least getting it started. Let's cut across right now immediately to our guest this evening. Joining me, Sandeep Shastri, National Coordinator, Lokniti Network, Amitabh Tiwari, Political Analyst, Yogendra Yadav, Co-Founder, Swaraj India. Yogendra Yadav, to begin with you, what would you reckon would be the political implications of the data that we see on our television screen, which was, of course, given out by the caste census conducted by the Bihar government?
I don't think we should rush into assessing the political implications. First of all, we should recognize that the data released by Bihar government today has vindicated the demand for caste census. What has the data done? This data has demonstrated the need for it has demonstrated that the population estimates that we were dealing with in the past have turned out to be quite erroneous. The data published by Bihar government today shows that the OBCs are substantially more than what anyone thought. They are put together 63% of Bihar. The data also shows that the upper caste have been very seriously overestimated in the past, especially the Brahmins. All the upper caste put together are only 11.6% of Bihar. So the claim of those who said we need a caste census because we don't know the reality have been vindicated. I'm waiting for the second installment of the data, which would tell us, because I've been saying, the most important thing about caste census is not just the population estimates. The most important caste census is that it gives us a sense of the educational, social, and economic profile. I'm waiting for that. Let's not rush into assessing the political implications for the time.
But Mr. Yadav, you know, that is something which the BJP also says, that this data is completely incomplete because it hasn't, or the government right now hasn't released the socio-economic weaker sections.
Yeah, that's not called incomplete data.
Mr. Yadav, we're having a problem with your audio link. Can we correct? We're going to correct your audio link. Let me go to another guest. We're going to try and get back to Mr. Yogendra Yadav on that. But Sandeep Shastri, you know, Yogendra Yadav, and understandably, you know, of the opinion where he says it's too early right now to get into what the political implications would be. But do you see a spillover effect of all of this right now in terms of other states also demanding a caste census?
While I respect the point which Yogenji made about it being too early to look at the political implications of the data released today by the Bihar government, but I think the potential of what has happened today to change the political narrative as we lead on to next year's Lok Sabha elections, for me at least, is clearly visible. Because we are seeing two alternative narratives of social justice emerging. One narrative which the government is putting forward, a narrative which talks about development, gender, and all castes and communities coming together. And you have now this alternative narrative where you talk of development, you talk of gender, but then you bring it in also with the lens of caste. Now, this reality in India is something which the opposition seems to have latched on to. Yes, there are variations across states. Yes, there will be differences among the alliance partners on how to view it. But I think this latest development has the potential to redefine the contours of the debate in the coming elections.
Amitabh Tiwari, the government could come up and then maybe as a counter, of course, because there is, you know, it's a political minefield of sorts where the BJP comes into question. But they could release the Rohini Commission data as a counter. Do you see that a possibility?
That possibility is there if this caste census demand grows further, stronger. As Yogendra Yadav said, we have to wait for the next move of Nitish. So the number is 84%, correct? OBC plus SC plus ST. What next? So should we, or should they be demanding now a higher reservation for OBCs, SCs, STs, which is currently capped at 50% to 84%, or some other number nationally? See, data is not very different from what the data was earlier. Earlier estimates also had the upper caste or the general category at 15-16%. That is the number here. What you have to understand is that the minorities 17% and the other minorities, so Muslims and other minorities, which is 18-19%, have been classified, or they have classified themselves largely as BCs or EBCs, correct? That's why the OBC number, which was earlier estimated to be 50%, is showing as 63, and the SC number, which was in 2011 census 16%, is now being shown as 18-19%. Correct. So this jiski jitni sankhya bhari, uski utni hissedari has some inherent issues in the slogan itself. It means that possibly the opposition could be asking a religion-based reservation, which is not allowed in the Constitution, number one. Number two, if the reservation is asked to be increased from, let's say, 27 to 84 or 50 to 84, will they be asking for an increase in reservation for the general category from 10% to 16%? So this is a Pandora's box.
Okay.
This is a Pandora's box. That's why the BJP has not been acceptable to this idea of caste census. It is a Pandora's box.
Okay, Yogendra Yadav, let me just once again try to get Mr. Yadav back into this conversation. He's some sketchy network. But Mr. Yadav, what do you make? The possibility of the government, if there is an increase in demand of caste census in other states, releasing data of Rohini Commission, and also the possibility of it, because there is already a cap where it comes down to 50% reservation when it goes down to caste by the top court of the country.
It's something that never ceases to amaze me, that the moment we say caste census, everyone wants to discuss the next step. So you want to go for an X-ray, you want to go to the hospital, and someone says, in case you have an X-ray, it may lead to the following, it may lead to that. We normally don't say that about X-rays and MRIs, do we? Why do I detect a sense of anxiety? And I think the reasons probably are clear today. In Bihar, the Brahmins are much less than anyone estimated. I have some sense of the data. I know what was estimated. And it so happens that Brahmins have turned out to be much less. No one expected upper caste to be only 11.6%. They were expected to be around 16 to 17%. So something has, and that I suspect is where the source of the trouble lies. There is a deep anxiety. Let's face it. Let's honestly face it. Let's confront what Dr. Ambedkar said. In this country, there is a deep-seated upper caste dominance, upper caste hegemony. And one of the ways of ensuring upper caste hegemony is never to allow information, true information, to come in the public domain. I suspect that is at work. Rohini Commission data, yes, it should be released. What's the problem? Of course it ought to be released. Let all the data come out. Let this country know what is I don't want only the number of caste and communities. I also want to know, now that we know that Brahmins, Bhumihars, and Kayastha and Rajput put together are 11.6% of Bihar, would it not be interesting, Preeti, for you to find out how many IAS officers are from these four communities? Would it not be interesting how many media persons, I'm saying it carefully, how many media persons of Bihar that you meet come from these four communities? How many judges, how many teachers? We should know this. And I suspect the whole problem is we don't want to confront this data. Hence this thing of what it would lead to, what are the next steps, what would it lead to? Arey Baba, if you discover that someone is 60% and that person says, right, now that I'm 60%, give me more, why are we scared?